Um, at the other end of the spectrum, let me go back one more time. This is the Seth Joyner Show, brought to you by Bet Parks. And, I had a couple of different guests line up, but I figured, hey, you know what? After that loss, that you guys had some things y'all wanted to get off your chest. Same way I got some things I want to get off my chest. And to be honest with you, man, I started off at the end of this game. I don't know how many of you guys watch the Postgame Show with me and Mike Missinelli and Derek Gunn on Jacob Sports on YouTube and on 6ABC streaming app on Sunday night. A lot of people keep asking me, or saying, hey, we miss you on Postgame. Well, I'm still doing a Postgame Show, just not on NBC anymore, over on Jacob Media, and we're live right after the game. And Mike Missinelli just pretty much lost his mind at this loss. And my take was, hey, you know what? They weren't going to go undefeated. They were going to lose a game somewhere along the way. We just didn't expect for it to be against the New York Jets. And then I got home at about 2:00 in the morning after I got done working, and I was just sitting around, and I was like, you know what, man? This don't make no damn sense. The Jets, with Zack Wilson as the quarterback, the Eagles lost to that clown, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And by the time I got up to do WIP Monday morning, I was just infuriated, by what I just witnessed, because the Eagles had an opportunity to not only win that game, some bad coaching, in my opinion, but you have to trust your quarterback, and you hope that when you pay your quarterback the kind of money that they're paying Jaylen Herz, that he would make the right decisions. I always say I would love to be, a little bug in Jaylen Hurts's ear to hear the conversation that goes on between he and Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni, in a crucial situation like that 3rd and 9 where he throws the interception. I just want to hear what that conversation sounds like. Are they telling them to be careful with the ball? Worst case scenario, just throw it away and we'll punt it and rely on the defense, or what that conversation sounds like, because the only way that the Eagles can lose that game is he throws that interception. And I'd be damned if that's not exactly what happened. I'm just really pissed off about it, because, it makes me feel some type of way, because going into this game against Miami, I felt that we'd be 6-0, and that, we go into this game feeling good about ourselves instead of having doubts about ourselves, given the amount of improvement offensively that we had made. And it seems to me that, they took a step backwards offensively rather than moving forward. Listen, this is a Talk to Him Tuesday. After I get done getting this off my chest, I'm going to turn it over to you guys and let you guys shoot me the questions. Of course, we'll have our Whiteboard 101. One of my Twitter followers asked me for something specifically today, so we'll get into that. But, back to the game. I just didn't understand why, being the number 2 ranked running team in the National Football League, we went into the game with the game plan being, okay, we're going to come out and we're going to throw the ball, call 51 times in that game. Now, the stats won't look like that. The stats are going to make it look like Jaylen Herz threw it 43 times and they ran it, another 26 times. But when you really delve into the numbers, no. There was 51 call passes against the 29th ranked run defense. and 18 called runs. Absolutely ridiculous. And the thing that pissed me off the most was, Zack Wilson hadn't done anything all game. You got 3rd and 9. Robert Saleh had just used his last timeout. You had a run by Kenneth Gainwell for 1 yard, and then you had a run by DeAndre Swift for no gain. And then you had the 2-minute warning. So if the Eagles come out on 3rd and 9 and they just run the football, they're going to run another 40, 45 seconds off the clock. Meaning that if they just run it and they don't pick up the first down, the Jets are out of timeouts. So then guess what happens? They get the ball after a punt on their 15, their 10, all depending on how great man, actually punts the ball. But they've got to drive 50 to 60 yards just to get in field goal range. And Zack Wilson hadn't done anything all day with 0 timeouts. And the pass rush was really heating up at that point in time. 4 sacks over the last 3.5 series for the Eagles defense. Now, you never compound, in my opinion, a bad situation with worse, because Jaylen Herz was having an off day after that first series where they went 19 plays, 90 yards, and scored on their first possession. After that, it just went to hell in a handbasket. So why would you put your quarterback in a situation where he's already not playing his best? Don't turn around and ask him to do the heroic in a situation where you really needed him to exercise caution. Because you can't ask a warrior to be a warrior, and he is the warrior with a warrior's mindset, no doubt about it. He believes that there's not a single thing that he can't do. So you put him in a situation where he's going to force it. He throws the interception instead of them just telling him, okay, we're going to run the ball. We're going to punt the ball if we don't make the first down, and we're going to rely on our defense, which has been lights out all day. Okay. 244 total yards by the Jets offense. I forget the numbers. I believe they were something like 2 for 11 on 3rd down and 0 for 1 on 4th down situations. Okay. So why would you put Jaylen in that situation when he's already having a bad day? You already compounded a bad situation with your play calling decision making. And the fact that you don't trust your defense when they played lights out all day long didn't make any sense to me either. All right. But on to the next. It is what it is. Can't cry over spilt milk. Game is over and done. I'm done with my rant. I'm going to start taking some of your questions before we get to our first commercial break. All right. And we're off. Brian wants to know, please put your logic behind the Jones signing. Listen, the only thing that I can think of is that they are sick and tired of Quez Watkins being hurt all the time and not getting any production out of that position. Now, I know that his speed is really what they want to be able to open the field up. And when there's opportunities, they want to go to him. But for some reason or another, he's just hurt all the time. And then Olamide Zaccheaus, he's a little on the small side. He tries, but he's not the answer there. Now, Julio Jones is not going to run by anybody, not going to stretch the field. But what he is, he's a great blocker in the run game. He's a great blocker in the screen game where they're not getting production. And he's going to be pretty crafty, as an old veteran that can, give you another 3rd down option in 3rd and intermediate. All right. Listen, if as long as they're not going to ask him to play, 60, 65% of the plays, then, what's the problem? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You can always cut him and go back to, the situation that you had before him. But, Howie's never going to sit on his hands and not try to figure out a way to improve the roster. All right. Next up, Tammy wants to know which impacted the game more, the injuries or the turnovers? Well, I'm always going to say the turnovers, because from an injury standpoint, One man's disaster is another man's opportunity. So every single time that somebody gets hurt, there's an opportunity for somebody else to step up, and show this coaching staff that they are worthy of an opportunity to play. Um, the turnovers, it's just so uncharacteristic because that's not what the Eagles do. I mean, I kind of had the feeling that we were in for one of those days. Jalen's first interception is a deflected ball. Then all of a sudden, DeAndre Swift, puts his first fumble of the season on the ground. Um, then you come back, and Jaylen throws another ball that his arm gets hit. And then obviously, you turn around and Jake Elliott, who has been just absolute cash dollar bills, cash money all season long, misses a 37-yard chip shot that really, may have affected how Nick Sirianni, decided what to do in that 3rd and 9 situation. I get the sense that, if they were up by 5 instead of just 2, then he may have punted the ball, realizing that they were going to have to go, the length of the field and get a touchdown. But I think maybe he feared giving up so much real estate along the way would be easy for them to get in field goal range. I still would have relied on, the defense to do what they have been doing all day long. I 2 for 11 on 3rd down conversions. There's no way in hell he was going to march that team down the field. That was the prudent bet, in my opinion. All right. GT wants to know what I think is a good trade for Chin or Baker. That's a good question, man. They've got some assets. They got two second rounders next year. I think they've got, a couple of 4th and 6th rounders that they can, probably get away with, moving on from. But, it just all depends on what these teams are after. Howie has just, robbed these guys in the league so much over time that, they're a little leery about dealing with him and what they're going to give away, for players of that value. And then you got to think about Budda Baker. Budda Baker, I believe his contract is coming up in maybe another year, maybe 2. If you have to give up a 2nd round draft pick for him, you want that guy on your roster long term. You don't want it to be just a 1-year rental. But if they get to a place where, the opportunity to actually win a Super Bowl is still present, but then they turn around and, they're lacking at that safety position, it might be a move that they have to make in order for them to get over the hump. But, time is of the essence. I'm not sure exactly when the trade deadline is, but I know it's quickly approaching. And at some point, they're going to have to make a decision what it is that they want to do, whether they want to go after one of these guys, for help on the back end. But they've just been inundated with injuries in the secondary and on the defensive side of the ball. It's just like seems like every game is somebody else or something else. And, it's one of the things that they enjoyed last year was, a healthy season where they didn't have any real major injuries until, Jaylen got hurt in the Chicago game. But we'll see. We'll see what Howie's got cooking. I mean, he started with a wide receiver, and obviously we need some secondary help. So I think I read somewhere today that he's scouring and looking around, for a deal to potentially be made for some secondary help. All right. So Michael wants to know, if I was a defense coordinator, how would you prepare the secondary against the Dolphins wide receiver core? That's a great question. I believe that the way that they play defense right now, the bend but don't break approach, and I'm not so sure that they can get away from it because that's the way that they've been groomed to play for the most part. I just believe that, that's a massive mistake. Now, I get it. You got 2 guys in Waddle and Hill that are 4-2 plus guys. And I know that Nick Sirianni is always worried about giving up the big play. But if you're just going to give up, first downs up and down the field, up and down the field, up and down the field, they still have the ability, to beat the brakes off you in a myriad of ways. Listen, this Dolphin team ranks number 1 in total yards, 498 yards per game. They rank number 1 in passing, 316 yards per game. They rank number 1 in rushing, 181 yards per game. Number 1 in scoring, 37 points per game. Number 1 in yards per play at 8 yards per play. That's a lot to keep, Sean Desai and his entire staff and the whole Eagles defense up every night this week, So you got a choice you got to make. It's either death by 1,000 cuts or one straight to the heart, and I would much rather, play it more aggressively. Tua is one of those quarterbacks that, everything they do, because teams play them so passively, they're so afraid to give up the deep ball that they play off and try to keep everything in front of them. Well, when you do that, all their routes are timing routes. You got the tight end at 5. You got one wide receiver on a dig route at 15. You got the other one running a post route. And all of these routes are hitting boom, 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 right on schedule, right on time. So when Tua drops back, all he's got to do is let it go. He already knows where he wants to throw the ball, but all he's got to do is just let it go, So if you don't get up and challenge wide receivers at the line of scrimmage and try to disrupt that timing, you're asking for trouble, because this team has got home run hitters not only in the backfield, but at wide receiver, all over the place, everywhere you look. And they're built, and their offense is built to destroy coverages, whether you're talking about man coverage, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, cover 6, and Tua is smart enough to decipher pre-snap what you're in. So he already knows where he wants to go with the ball. And the pass rush is tamped down, because if you're going to play guys off the ball, then he's going to raise up and throw the ball out to Tyreek Hill, if you play 10 yards off of him, because the defender is so afraid that he's going to miss the tackle that more times than not, he misses the tackle. He's off to the races, He's going to take the slant route if you give it to him by playing 7 to 10 yards off the ball, So my thing is, get up and challenge people. I would much rather lose this game by challenging these wide receivers and getting your hands on them. Listen, I know that when I played, it was like a long time ago, and that mentality, is over in the NFL. But these teams are still finesse teams, And when I played, the way that you beat a finesse team is you beat the crap out of them. You get physical with them at the line of scrimmage when you're tackling them. Everything. You be physical with them because they don't want you to touch them. They don't want to be hit. They just want to run their routes. And, Tyreek Hill wants to run by you and wave his hands. He want to do all of that nonsense. Okay. My thing is, I want to see Reed Blankenship. Go ahead and take your shot, man. I want you to knock his damn block off and make him think twice about running across that middle and not looking to see where you are. Okay. Those are the types of things that changes the game. And hey, this might be one of those games where, you may have to take a 15-yarder just to send a message that we're not taking it. We're going to knock your block off. We're going to make you feel us. We're going to hit you play after play. Everything you get, you're going to get it because you earn it, And I believe if you don't play that way, then you're setting yourself up for failure at the end of the day. All right, let's take a break right quick. After this break, we'll come back. I'll jump into 2 or 3 more questions before we jump into our whiteboard, and then the third portion of the show will go uninterrupted, nothing but questions and answers, and rants and raves and observations. All right, in a sec.
When you open the BetParks app, you're in the zone. Winning is always a rush, but the money is in the moments. It's the confidence and underdogs covering, the tension before a clutch turnover, and the pride of a parlay paying off. It's another chance to win big with all-day action. Plus, win your first $10 bet and get $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun, you love to win. You bet. Bet Parks.
If you understand that success is built on trusted relationships and dependable performance, Mid-Penn Bank is the right bank for you. We're on a mission to prove that the right bankers can make a big difference. We work harder, we get things done, and we're in your corner. With financial centers strategically located throughout the greater Philadelphia region and new locations in central New Jersey, we're ready to bring you the best in commercial and personal banking. Call or visit us today to connect with a professional Mid-Penn banker. Member FDIC. Go Eagles!
Welcome to Bridgeview Partners, where IT and business innovation merge. We're not just another tech company. We're your strategic partner in navigating the ever-evolving digital landscape. Our team of experts tailors cutting-edge solutions to fit your unique needs, and ensuring your success is our top priority. Elevate your business with Bridgeview Partners. Discover the power of partnership and tech innovation today. Contact us now to experience the difference. Bridgeview Partners, where innovation meets excellence.
Welcome back once again. It's the Seth Joyner Show, sponsored or presented by Bet Parks. Hey guys, listen, I'd appreciate if you guys would go on the YouTube page, like, share, and subscribe. Particularly subscribe. Share the information. Share, what we're doing here. Would greatly appreciate it. All right. Let's jump into, a few more questions here and before we jump into our whiteboard session. All right. So Rob wants to know, why do you not go into coaching? Interesting question. I don't even know why my producer put that up there. I just want to fan the flames. Because I love what I do here. I love talking football. I've got, my life, away from football. You go into coaching. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't do it if the opportunity wasn't the right, if I had the right opportunity and the right situation. But, I get to talk football, the game that I love and I know, during the football season, a little bit in the off season. And then I get to go and golf and enjoy myself and travel, spend time with my family. If you're coaching, you're coaching all year round. You got about a week and a half, 2 weeks vacation. That's it. If I was in my late 30s, early 40s, maybe I'd and I looked at it differently, I probably would go into it a little more in depth. But at this point in my life, I just want to do what I want to do and enjoy my life the way that I want to enjoy it. But I do enjoy talking the game, sharing my knowledge about the game, and being on here, chatting with you guys. All right. I'm not even going 747 Kashif. 747 wants to know, what do you know about Josiah Scott? I saw a report that Howie's going to sign him too. Well, I know that Josiah was in camp. He was on the roster, didn't make the 53. And also was not, I don't believe, was on the practice squad. So, that's a desperation move. The only good thing about him is the fact that he's been here before and he's had some experience as an Eagle before. So, it's not like he's going to, come in as a brand new guy, having to learn a whole new system, so on and so forth. So, I mean, that's the only positive to signing him. But, at this point, you're looking for a guy like, Bradley Roby, who has experience. You don't want a young guy who's never been there before having to go through the machinations of learning a new system and trying to get acclimated with some guys that, he doesn't know. They got plenty of those guys on the roster, even if they are a little thin at that position. All right. So Adam wants to know, have I watched the Browns defense this year? Is Schwartz having his guys playing more aggressive, or is the same system he ran here? Listen, I watched that San Francisco game last week. It certainly is not the old Jim Schwartz. He is a lot more aggressive, in Cleveland than he ever was here. And listen, I don't know, maybe the players that he has, has allowed him to think more aggressively. But at the other end of the spectrum too, when you're away from the game a little bit and you can begin to see and look at things from a different perspective, like he has been, maybe that's it. I tell people all the time, and you begin to see it more and more. A lot of people believe that, I'm just blitz happy and all I want to do is bring pressure and blitz the quarterback every play. But if you look at the NFL, even the greatest of quarterbacks, when um, put under pressure, can look average. You look at Justin Herbert last night. That pass rush had him rattled all night long. Um, you look at Jaylen Herz for that matter. The way he played as the game progressed, those linebackers were coming, the defensive linemen were coming. Jack Driscoll, just got, his ass handed to him all day long. And they did nothing to really help him out. So that sped up Jalen's clock and made him make, some decisions faster and quicker that he wouldn't necessarily normally make, you know. So that's the entire purpose of, pressure, is to speed everything up. You guys hear me say it all the time. And she asked the question, or he asked the question, or whoever it was that asked the question. So I'm always going to, keep it 100 with you guys. Pressure is a game changer, you know, and you can talk about explosive offenses all you want. But I think that anytime that you play aggressive and, your cornerbacks and your linebackers have an aggressive posture and your defensive coordinator is aggressive in his mindset, that, you breed an aggressive style defense that puts pressure on offenses and speeds everything up. And it makes all the difference in the world. That's why, you see more quarterbacks moving in the trend of guys that can extend plays and escape. Some of the escapes that Jaylen Herz has made over the last 2 weeks is just phenomenal. There was one last week. I'm looking like, how in the world did he get out of that? But that's what you're going to have, in today's NFL, in order for quarterbacks to survive. I mean, you just can't sit back and let these guys just shred you to death. You got to speed them up, and especially if they're young guys that are learning, minimal experience, that's when you really go after them. The older guys, yeah, you're trying to disguise what you're doing till you get about, 10 seconds in the play clock, and then you want to move into what you're doing, because if you show them any earlier, they know what you're in, where to go with the football before they even ask for it. But you gotta speed them up, and I watched that game. Like I said, Jim Schwartz is definitely calling a more aggressive style defense, in Cleveland. And like I said, I'm not sure whether it's the players that he has more confidence in them, or he's had a change of heart. I tell you what, the guy in Dan Quinn down in Dallas, he's the same way. I mean, he was the defense coordinator for the Legion of Boom. Um, they could get away with playing, a cover 3 shell and being less aggressive. Then he became the head coach at Atlanta, and they played that same style of defense and just got run up out of the league. He lost his job. He goes over to Dallas, and all of a sudden, he transforms. Now he's got some better players there, but he's a lot more aggressive than he was, when he was in Seattle or Atlanta. So sometimes I think these guys, after playing passively, they really understand that, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to be a little more aggressive. Maybe I need to bring more pressure. Maybe I need to speed up some of these young quarterbacks. I just think that that's just my mindset, and it'll never change, because I believe that pressure busts pipes, and the more pressure that you can apply to quarterbacks in this league, the better results that you're going to have if you learn how to do it in a smart way. All right. One more question before we jump into our Whiteboard 101. How would you, okay, what did I do to slow down Tyreek Hill? I think I would mix up different ways to double him. I would get somebody up in his face, take a shot at him, jam him, and then double him with a guy over the top. I would bracket him in certain situations, not too much, because if you get a full bracket with zero coverage, he's going to see it and split it and just, go right between them. But I play an underneath coverage on him, jam him at the line of scrimmage, get underneath him, a yard behind him, a yard inside of him, trail him with a guy over the top, playing a little more outside to take away the corner route. That's the route that scares the hell out of everybody, is the 7 route. Then sometimes, you're just going to have to play them, straight up. I play some 2-man, 2 high safeties, get up and jam them. At least you got help over the top. I play some robber stuff against them, especially when they put them in the slot and they like to, motion them across and then run them on a crossing route, running across. You drop one of the safety downs and robber covers that picks up the crosser, and the guy that's on them just falls back into the hole for the next crosser. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but I think, that creativity, I'm not so sure that it's there in today's NFL. And sometimes I get the sense that these defensive coordinators are so scared to death of giving up a big play that they're afraid to be a little more creative in how they, try to stop a guy like Tyreek Hill. Listen, he's fast. And I believe the best way to play him is just take your shot. If you're gonna miss him, tippy-toeing, you might as well take your shot and miss him. What's the difference? You're still gonna miss him. I might as well try to take his damn head off, and if I miss, hopefully somebody else get him. If I don't miss, then at least I'm beating him up and I'm sending the message that, we're going to pound your ass all day long. All right. So let's jump into our Whiteboard 101. And one of my Twitter follows, Chris E_NYC, asked me to dissect this and show this to you guys. So he wanted me to basically break down what's going on in zone concepts and matches and how you match up, because I think I was talking about it in postgame last week, how one of the ways that the Jets were confusing Jaylen Herz is they would, look like they were in zone, but they would match. So basically the zone match concept. So let's jump into it here. That's the tight end, quarterback, running back, slot. Okay. So then let's put in a defensive front here. Doesn't really matter, but just for aesthetics, let me put it in. You got a linebacker, corner, slot corner, safety. Okay. So if you're going to play cover 3, this is the scenario you got, deep third. He'll rotate down. He's got the flat. Okay. So this is his zone. He'll rotate to the middle. He's got a third. That guy will get to the flat. And then you got two hook players. So this is his zone, this is his zone, this is his zone, and you got 3 guys over the top. So normally what'll happen is if this guy releases, okay, this linebacker's now got him because he's in his zone. This guy comes here, any kind of shallow route, anything in here, this guy now is going to wall him off and he's going to match. So you got to match here and you got to match here, okay? This guy, even though he's getting to the flat, he's looking for anything in his zone. And as he goes, this linebacker's got to widen a little bit, okay? So as this guy comes in, he's in his zone, he's going to match. Now, the Eagles made hay last week by, in the first couple of plays of the first drive, having DeAndre Swift come out of the backfield, because you can see they're a man short when you play cover 3. Okay, so let's back it all the way back out. Okay, so you kind of get the concept of what I'm talking there. So let's back it all the way back out, and let's give you a cover 2 concept. Okay, so in cover 2, this is where things get a little dicey. Okay, so he's responsible for half the field. He's responsible for half the field. Okay. This corner is going to jam this line, and this cornerback, this is the number 1 receiver. This is the number 2 receiver. This is the number 3 receiver to this side. This is the number 2, and this is the number 1. Okay. So this cornerback is 1 to 2. This linebacker is 2 to 1. Okay, so what that means is if you get any kind of switch route, he now becomes the 1 and he now becomes the 2. Okay, or vice versa. He becomes the 2, he becomes the 1. Okay, so over here, the slot corner has the most difficult job because he is 2-1 with the corner out here, and then he's 2-3 with the linebacker, meaning that if this back swings and this guy comes in, okay, they're going to swap responsibilities. The corner's still out here, so then you have this situation where if this guy, runs any kind of stop route out here, the corner's going to hold because that's going to be his match. The slot corner is going to match here, and the linebacker is going to match on that crosser. A lot of teams do that because they want to get that slot guy matched up on the linebacker. Same thing over here. Even though you're 2-1, once that guy comes to his zone, he's going to match right there. Corner's going to pick up the new 1 coming right here. Okay, so that's your match concept. And out of cover 2, it's easier because you got 5 guys underneath. You got enough guys to actually cover the 5 receivers that are out in coverage. Okay, so therein, lies the whole concept of, zone matching. One more thing I want to do for you guys, I want to kind of give you an understanding of how teams have begun to, especially early in the year, how teams have, really hurt the Eagles offensively, and some of the changes that they made. Let's just scrub this guy out here. So teams were lining up. They've dropped that safety in there, and this is what they were doing to the Eagles' offense. Okay, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys across with a safety in the hole. Okay, so when you line up like that, it's really hard for a quarterback. It's hard for Jaylen Herz to kind of decipher, what the heck they're in. You know, so they can play, some kind of, they can rotate this guy back and rotate him over here and play cover 2 and take that guy to the flat right now, and you can still play cover 2 from there. Or, you know, they got different concepts where, hey, they can bring that guy off the slot, bring the linebacker out, play a zone concept behind it, and you still, got your zones covered. Okay. There were so many things that was confusing Jaylen Herz early in the season, and people weren't understanding what was going on. Bill Belichick did this. Brian Flores did this. Um, you know, and I think to a certain degree, Robert Saleh did a little bit of this because you can line up with this muddled look where you got 5, 6 guys across, and you can rotate a corner, or you can have that corner roll up and have that guy come back. You can play quarters, half against it, where he's responsible for a quarter, he's responsible for a quarter, and he's rotated to a half. You got all these different things that you can do. So then you can understand why Jaylen Herz at the beginning of the season looked so confused at times, because there was a myriad of different ways that they were trying to confuse it. And it took time for him and Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni to kind of figure out and come to some kind of conclusion about what to do with it. But I think that, they have. I just think that they need to be a lot less greedier when it comes to the pass game and trying to, make plays down the field and force things. Rather, I would love to see them, if you're going to pass it, take the short passes, move the chains, keep the chains moving. And when you have an opportunity, because you've got a lead and you've scored, most of the possessions, now you force the defense to do some things that they don't want to do. Now that's your opportunity to hit the big play. But again, they got impatient because in that first series last week, I want to say they ran. I'll look at my numbers here right quick. They basically ran 16. Is it 16? Yes, 16 call pass plays to only 3 called run plays on that first drive. Okay. And they marched the ball right down the field. Like I said, 19 plays, 90 yards. But they were patient there. The problem was as the game went on, they started getting more and more greedy, instead of realizing, hey, you know what? We're just, it worked on the first series. They've adjusted. It's not working now. Okay, so we've got to adjust what we're doing. But they just kept trying to go back to the well. And there was nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with running what they ran. If you're going to dump the ball off and get 5 yards on first down, to one of your running backs out of the backfield. If you're getting, 4 under, 3 deep, or any combination of that where, you got avoided zone, well, when you start holding on to the ball, trying to hit plays down the field, and you got guys that are sometimes zone matching, sometimes it's just playing pure zone, and they're fast. When you look at Williams and Mosley, you're looking at, two of the fastest, great, aggressive style linebackers that the NFL has. And I will go back again and I'll say it again. If Howie Roseman does not look at those two linebackers and understand the importance of linebackers in the National Football League, and look at the two linebackers in San Francisco and understand the importance of linebackers in this league, it just makes no sense to me, because you can have the greatest front in the world, but you need some good playmaking linebackers, to really make your defense thrive, and those guys played lights out the other night, especially the Williams kid. I expected for Mosley to play well, and DeAndre Swift actually had him. He had him shook, and then he punched it out while he was on his knees. But that Quincy Williams kid, he just played lights out the other night, and I can't emphasize how important it is, in my opinion, that you have good playmaking linebackers, and they are worth spending the capital on to go and get if you're going to have a good defense. All right, let's jump back into our questions. Adam wants to know, do I think the Broncos will be interested in trading Surtain, and what do you think it would take? I believe that they just drafted him 2 years ago. I don't think they would really be interested in moving him. I mean, anything's possible, especially with what's going on in Denver and what it is that Sean Payton's probably gonna do. He's probably gonna, have a fire sale and start all over. It'd be hard for me to believe that he took that job under the pretense that he's going to turn it around in 2 or 3 years. I would imagine that deal has to look like, a 5-year no fire deal, no cut deal for him in order for him to actually get it done. But we'll see. Listen, I felt all along that C.J. Gardner-Johnson was the guy that they should have signed, at the risk of, allowing one of those corners to walk. It didn't work out that way, and we wound up getting the corners back. But we need to get younger at the corner position, and we need some guys who can actually get it done. I think this team is primed and ready, for multiple Super Bowl runs over the next 3 years. But you're not going to get there continuously trying to develop young players and get them ready. You got to have some experience, especially at cornerback. Got to have some experience there, and that might require either some of these young guys growing up really quick, or you going out and making a deal to bring somebody in. All right. T-Mark wants to know, is it me, or is there more injury these days versus back when you played? And listen, man, they don't make them like they used to. These dudes are just soft, man. Every time I turn around, it's like, now there's some guys, like I hear Lane Johnson is trying to, he's saying that he's going to be ready to go. I heard there was an interview with Jason Kelsey, because, he's coming up on a milestone of starts. And he was asked, how many, he was asked, how in the world do you play that many games without missing a game? And he basically said, hey, there are some games where I played when I was hurt, when I was injured. That's the difference between those guys with the warrior mindset, and some of these prima donnas today. Some of these guys get a hangnail and they can't go. They tweak their ankle a little bit and they can't go. Well, back in my day, you played because, they could cut you at any time, give you injury settlement, and just move on. these guys understand that per the collective bargaining agreement that, they don't have to play. They don't have to force themselves to get out there and play. And then the question arises, like Deion Sanders questioned, some of his players last week, do these guys love the game the way that we loved it back in the day when I played it? I mean, I love to play. And if I could get out there, if there's a way that I could jog, I was going to try to get out there and be with my teammates. These guys now is just different. They just, they'd rather take 2-3 weeks off thinking they're going to be 100%. And the reality is, from the time that you leave training camp, you ain't ever 100%. You're going to be hurt in some way. Now, if a guy's injured, that's different. There's a big difference between injury and being hurt. If you're hurt, you get your ass out there and you play. If you're injured, that means that you can't do, your body won't allow you to do what you normally do. If you're injured, I get it. Sit down, get well, the next guy step up and do what you got to do. But if you hurt, like a lot of these guys just get hurt in the game and they pull him out, and all of a sudden, he's questionable. Next thing you know, he's out. Did he really try to go back in and play? Or did they make the decision for him that, hey, oh, you're done for the day? I don't get it. Yeah, you're right. There's a whole lot of guys, a massive amount more injuries today than in my day. And I'll say this too. I believe that these guys get hurt the way that they do because of how they practice and how they go through training camp. We battled, we warred in training camp, and we hardened our bodies. We got ready, for the season. We got ready for the battle. These guys do walkthroughs and they only hit once every blue moon, and they're trying to get them to the season and they're healthy. And their bodies are so brittle and so soft by the time they get to the regular season. Then week 1, week 2, week 3, they start getting these little nagging injuries. Get those little bumps and bruises in training camp so that your body is hardened for the battle once the season starts. But that's not the way that they do business, and that's not the way that the sports science says that you do it, and that's not the way the analytics say that you do it. But it seems to me, and I'd love to see the data, that these guys get hurt a hell of a lot more than we got hurt back in the day, for sure. All right. C. Scott wants to know, can you address the elephant in the room? What's that? Are the DBs going to get cooked this weekend? Listen, if they play passively, I give you 2 things to watch. Okay. If they don't get up and play aggressive sometimes, okay, I'm not saying you got to get up and get in these wide receivers' faces all the time, but you can't play off all the time. You got to get up and you got to challenge them sometimes. You got to mix it up. The other thing is, if the Eagles on offense don't run the football and try to minimize the amount of possessions that you give to Miami, then it could get ugly. Because if they have 10 or more possessions in this football game, it's going to be really difficult for the Eagles to win this game. Really difficult. I want to see a 7-8 possession game where the Eagles are just running the ball, chewing up the clock, and every time that, they get the ball, it's 12 to 15-yard drives. Just be patient. All you want to do is just, 5 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards. I just want to see them operate their offense that way, because if they can do that and they can minimize the amount of possessions that this offense has, it minimizes the opportunities that that these players, that Miami has an opportunity to actually score. But if you try to get in a shootout with this team, believing that you can keep up with them, it's going to get real ugly real fast. All right. Johnny wants to know, what's my take on Desai's defense compared to Gannon's? Hey, listen, night and day. I believe that I give Sean Desai a lot of credit, because I believe that, the injuries has prevented him from being able to be as aggressive as he wants to be. And he's had to navigate all these injuries in the secondary. He's had to navigate Fletcher Cox being out of game, and then Jordan Davis being out of game, and Hassan Reddick for the first 3 or 4 weeks not being, himself. So I believe that at the end of the day, he's done a heck of a job, under the circumstances. But the funny thing is, I'm looking out at Jonathan Gannon in Arizona. He's blitzing his ass off all of a sudden. And I'm like, where the hell was that when he was here? So that kind of leads me to believe that maybe, just maybe, you know, it wasn't Jonathan Gannon not wanting to be aggressive, but it was, you know, Nick Sirianni instructed him not to be overly aggressive. All right. One more question before we jump into one more break before we take a couple more questions and shut it down. David wants to know, who is my current favorite Eagle player to watch? That's interesting. Well, believe it or not, after all these years and all these guys being here, I love to watch Jaylen Carter when he's doing his thing. I think that he's one of the most dynamic defensive tackles in the National Football League. I hope, you know, whatever the injury was that he had last week, it isn't, you know, going to put him in a situation where, like Jordan Davis last year, he's kind of limping and gimping around the rest of the year, because I truly believe that if he can be 100% or close to it, that he's going to be the defensive rookie of the year. All right. We'll be back after this break. Last one.
Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain. At Mandrecchia Law, we win big personal injury cases, but we always tell our clients up front that those cases almost always hinge on how much insurance coverage people or companies have. At Mandrecchia Law, we don't sell insurance, but we're experts at helping our clients make sure they have the right insurance to protect their businesses and families. Do you have the right insurance? Most people don't. For a consultation, visit mmattorneys.com or call 610-584-0700. Mandrecchia Law, aggressive attorneys who get the job done.
This is Seth Joyner, top analyst for the Birds. I've also analyzed the best auto dealerships, and I drive a Davis Honda.
Fall into savings at Davis Honda. Over 300 cars available. And right now, get rates as low as 0.9% at Davis Honda in Burlington. Plus, you'll get 2 years of free oil changes on every new and used Davis Honda vehicle. See why Davis Honda continues to win outstanding awards for sales and service, including the highest award from Honda, the President's Award. Get to Davis Honda in Burlington.
Fall into savings at Davis Honda.
JP Mascaro and Sons is a family-owned, locally operated solid waste service company in business for over 60 years. You've seen the red trucks with the blue elephant that symbolizes strength and reliability. Mascaro is different than other national brands. Like the Birds, Philadelphia is home. They'll take care of all your waste removal needs. They have it all: an experienced workforce, state-of-the-art equipment, a cutting-edge recycling center, and their own disposal facilities. Call 888-MASCARO or visit jpmascaro.com.
Welcome back, guys. As we roll into the last segment, of course, you know, y'all just gonna have to bear with me tonight. I'm trying to figure out what the if we got a score in the Phillies game quite yet. So just hold on one second. I think there we go. Phillies up 1-0. Bottom of the first, already on the board. Let's ride it, baby. Red October. All right, let's jump back into, you know, our questions here for the last, what we got, about 6.5, 7 minutes of the show. We just going to run them off. All right, Sean wants to know, do I see the Eagles trading for secondary help due to injuries? Also, do a trade for Justin Simmons or Surtain from Denver or Jeremy Chin? Hey, listen, I don't know, man. I mean, I think Howie is shaking the bushes and shaking the trees, trying to figure out, you know, if there's a deal out there to be made. If there's a way to improve that secondary and get, you know, a guy with some experience in here at safeties, at the safety position or at the slot corner position, I believe he'll make it happen. But I think you and I both, we're going to have to wait and see, you know, what kind of magic he can work under these circumstances. All right. Next up. Lamar 21, who would I put at slot against Waddle? Good question. It all depends on who's healthy. If Bradley Roby is up and ready to go, he's obviously the best option. If not, you know, I think I might slide Sidney Brown down there. He did a pretty darn good job, but the problem is he's coming off an injury, and you just don't know, how game ready he is. I would assume that if he's up this week, that they feel like he's ready. I don't know how much he practiced last week, at all, and whether he was close or not. But, I think for the most part, you guys are asking me questions that are going to come down to, how healthy they are, across the secondary as they approach game time. All right. All right. Michael Infante, my man, me and this dude go back a long way. He wants me to talk about playing surfaces. Seem to be so much playing danger with artificial turf. How does the league help address this problem? Well, there's kind of a little bit of a war going on right now, Mike, because the players union want the owners to go back to, grass across the board. Obviously, in certain climates, that's problematic, trying to grow grass and trying to maintain it. Then you got the issue with the old turf, where you have the chewed up, rubber, and we don't know what the long-term effects of that's going to be. You guys see it, when a guy drags his foot on the sideline, when you hit the ground, that stuff is bouncing up. It gets in your eye and your nose and your ear and your mouth. We don't know what the long-term effects is that's actually going to be. There's so many protocols and so many processes that go into, trying to determine which surface is best. And it's a money thing as well. I think it's somewhere around, $3 to $10 million, more to maintain a grass field all year long. And then you got, some of these fields that are owned and maintained by the municipalities in that city, and they've got, concerts and all kind of stuff going on. How do you manage that? So it's a lot more to it than just, okay, which surface is better, grass or turf? And a lot of ways, there's a lot of things going on with turf. You're a golfer like I am. That they're combining turf, with natural grass, trying to, mesh them together. There's a whole lot of things going on, but it's really hard to say, what the best option is as far as the NFL is concerned, because with the NFL, it's about the money. With the players, it's about safety, and the players feel like the best surface for them is grass. And the owners, even if they feel that way, it always comes down to what? The money, the economics. All right. Andre wants to know, Jaylen's holding the ball longer than he did last year. Does that have something to do with the new play caller or decision making? I think it's probably a combination, of a couple of different things. I think that, it's funny because I was on a podcast and the guy talked about how Mo Cheeks, former point guard for the Sixers, had an eye for Doc, meaning that every time he come across half court, Doc was always open. He was looking to get Doc the ball. I get the sense that Jaylen has an eye for A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown gets a lot of targets, a lot of looks, and I think sometimes that hurts him because, he is the guy above all the receivers on that offense that he trusts the most. That's A.J. Brown. At the other end of the spectrum, I think that, there is some lag as far as, the new coordinator is concerned. I also believe that, teams are doing some different things to Jaylen, that he's still in that learning process, that, the coverages aren't as cut and dry as we might think that they are. And he's got to adjust to that. And I also believe that, the pressure has been turned up on Jaylen a little bit. I don't think that our offensive line, as great as it is, I don't think that, especially when we get into overpassing, I don't believe that, they have protected as well as they have in the past. Especially, Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson has gotten pushed back a couple of times. You got, Sua Opeta, who was taking over for Cam Jurgens. And even when Cam Jurgens was in, he kind of got beat, quite a bit. So I think it's a combination of all of those things, wrapped up into one. as to why, Jaylen hasn't been as efficient and he's as effective as he has been. I still believe that, hey, if they run the ball and you've got a good mix and your coordination is, off of, you're coordinating your passing plays off of your running plays, then that gives you an opportunity, to slow down the rush and allow Jaylen to go through a full progression before someone's on him. And in a lot of ways, hey, he's going to have to speed up his progression. You can't wait for routes to develop. Those routes need to hit on time. And if guys aren't open when you're looking, when you're ready to throw the ball, move to the next and the next and the next. And if it ain't there, then check the ball down. That, in a nutshell, is what I kind of believe, is some of the problems with Jaylen. And as you can see, it's not one thing. It's massive across the board. All right, last question. David Boyle wants to know, of course, you can choose one current NFL player that embodies your playing style. Who would it be? Geez, that's interesting. It's so hard to do that because, you don't have linebackers that play on and off the ball like I played. I played over tight ends. There were times where I played off the ball, in nickel and dime situations, I played off the ball. But you don't really see that anymore. If you're talking about a linebacker that's on the ball now, he's normally an edge rusher who very rarely drops into coverage or covers anybody man-to-man. So that skill set he doesn't possess. So if I had to pick one, I would probably say, probably a guy like Fred Warner because, he does it all. He blitzes. He covers man-to-man, drops in coverage, and he's a factor, in the run game. He's a guy that never comes off the field, a kind of a do-it-all type of linebacker, and I always felt like, that's the way, I played the game. All right. Well, that's a wrap for tonight. I'll see you guys right back here next week, same place, same time. I'm hoping that our Eagles and our Eagles coaching staff can figure out a way to slow down this high-powered Miami offense. I must say, I don't like picking against the Eagles, but this isn't a game that I feel really comfortable with, especially with them coming off that Jets loss last week. But you guys are going to have to watch the Seth Joyner Show, which airs tomorrow night, 11 p.m. on PHL 17 and 11 p.m. on NBC Sports Philadelphia on Thursday night to actually get my game predictions. All right. That's a wrap. Thank you to my sponsors, particularly Bet Parks. And like I said, I'll see you guys back here next week. As usual, take care of each other and be good to each other. But most important, make sure you love each other. I'll see you here next week. Peace.